Good afternoon. Welcome to this week's podcast of Safety Culture Solutions, sponsored by Safety Culture Strategy. So actually we're reversed. We're having a good time this morning out here. Here in the Southwest, weather's actually changing for the better. Today we got a little different approach. Usually we have featured guests with us, but today we're going to be doing what we call an executive synopsis. I'm going to be talking about the importance of leaders getting in the field. You've heard from many of our guests, and they says, yeah, when you get leaders in the field and they start talking to the people that are responsible for the day-to-day work, man, it can make all the difference in the world. And to quote my good buddy, Odie Etmanship, is you speak to learn versus argue, right? So learn how to listen and just gain what's going on versus trying to figure out how you're going to argue about it. So we're going to pull up some slides. I'm going to kind of move in and out of what we're doing. So obviously we got to have our starting slide come up here on top of us. And this is management by walking around versus stumbling about. At the end of the podcast today, I'm also going to give you information how you can get a white paper that I've authored around this process. So you always got to have a little bit of history about this. Well, it kind of started with Edward Deming. You probably heard from TQM. And he learned a lot about this in Japan. Whereas if I make sure I can get it right, I think it's Gensi Gubutsu. And what that means in Japanese, roughly translated, go and see. They said, get out in the field, and they learned this early on in the Toyota program. And you talk and you start listening and you're learning from all these big groups out there. Right? And so I thought Harvard Business School, you want to be able to resolve issues versus that symbolic show of support. You've probably seen that happen in your workplace. Boss comes by, hey, we're going to take care of that for you. And nothing happens, right? So you got to get beyond just this symbolic show. You want to make a difference on it. You want to have some purposeful actions when you have those impromptu conversations. You want to start building that relationship, but also have a purpose and appreciate it. Is there things that I as a leader can really get engaged with and help make a difference? What is really fascinating is one of the articles, Can Your Employees Speak Freely? That just due to the passive nature, an open door policy commonly doesn't work too well. And raise your hand if you have an open door policy. Most companies do. Don't get me wrong. And it's important to have that. A lot of people, especially at the task level, that may not see a lot of the management team, even though your door's open, as that president, vice president, director of safety, they may not feel real comfortable walking through it. So we're going to get started. What are we talking about? Well, we got a little picture I borrowed from my buddies at American Society of Safety Professionals. You got a guy laying on the ground falling off a ladder, and there's somebody with a hard hat and clipboards. That's some kind of boss. He goes, you weren't listening. I said, don't fall. And so a lot of times that's what happens when management goes out there. Oh, you're doing this wrong. Why didn't you do it this way? So, but this is more about building a relationship. It's not an inspection. It's not an audit, and it's definitely not an assessment. I encourage leaders, when you start this program, don't even take any type of clipboards or notepads with you. That kind of helps establish the right tone, in my humble opinion. And you got to have a strategy, because I got a news flash for you. If you don't have a strategy, this can do more harm than good, and we're going to talk about that. You got to focus on the people, not the paper. Why is it important? Well, if you've heard me at all, you know what a big fan I am of Gallup. They do amazing stuff. So what's really important to employees? Well, with that December-February time frame going through 2020, people, they want to have their opinions valued. They want to be engaged with the company. What's going on? And they want management that's a coach, not just that heavy-handed boss. Does that sound kind of familiar? Probably an ideal state. Now, millennials, they're fascinating. We got a whole bunch of them out there, and they bring such a fascinating skill set and a different perspective. Anybody that's got millennials in your group, congratulations, they're going to help you achieve your goals. Part of that, a lot of stuff they look at and they value is camaraderie, a culture, professional development, right? They want to know their manager, their boss is in their corner to help them out. And a lot of times, these attributes are valued more than the salary. When they realize, hey, all this is going on, so maybe I'm not going to jump to the next company for another $1.50 an hour. Why is it important? So now we're going to go back to Gallup, and we're going to give a little bit of data, because you always got a little bit of information about this. They began in 2017 with about 200 100,000 employees they looked at. They had 31 million respondents beginning in 2015. So I would offer for your consideration, they got a fairly good data pool. And insights based on more 80 years of experience collecting these guys. So here you go. Approximately 33%, 1/3 of employees consider themselves engaged. That's kind of spooky. They enjoy their work. They're going to help on new initiatives. They can't wait to get started, and they know how they make a difference. And the data really hasn't changed that much, maybe from 33 to 35%. In other words, kind of consistent. About 50% are just there. They show up for work, kind of. Right? They can't wait for the end of the shift, the end of the week, or that, hey, I got to take vacation next week. Sorry, boss, I already made my plans. And then finally, you got around 16%, 15, 16, somewhere in that decimal point, that are actively disengaged. They are miserable. They hate their life for whatever reason. They really don't like their job. They won't support initiatives. They will go out of their way to undermine the efforts of their peers, their coworkers. They will go out of the way to try to disrupt it. And candidly, that is a toxic atmosphere. They can spread. So all of this, you're going, man, well, how do we get there? Well, there's lots of moving parts on this. And you look at the compensation costs. Well, Liberty Mutual in 2019, not that long ago, LM, they've been around a long time. They looked at the serious non-fatal injuries. They looked at slips, trips, falls, overexertion. So that becomes some of your strains, sprains along that line. It was approximately 56 billion per year. That's a B. That's over $1 billion per week across the United States. And those numbers, unfortunately, have not improved. And then you got a lot more considerations out of this. The reduced morale when that individual is not there to help support the work assignments. Loss of productivity. And then you got lack of support for future initiatives. Depending on how you as the organization respond to those injuries, everybody watches it, everybody learns and sees what's going on. We're going to take a quick break because I think everybody needs to catch their breath when they're hearing $1 billion per week. We'll be right back. And we do have some solutions for you to share with you as well. Stand by.
Safety Culture Strategies provides world-class safety culture and safety program management consultative services for clients throughout the United States. Whether your company is pursuing Voluntary Protection Program STAR designation, ISO 45001 certification, or considering a comprehensive review of your current safety programs and processes, Safety Culture Strategies brings hands-on experience combined with a unique perspective that readily translates from senior management to task-level personnel. This collective skill set provides you with a very insightful health check of your overall safety management system that can also assist with reducing injuries and attrition, as well as increasing profitability. Safety Culture Strategies is also certified to provide Ziegler Institute employee engagement training and leadership coaching. When combined with established relationships with federal and state regulators, Safety Culture Strategies is uniquely positioned to assist the safety culture efforts of any company. For additional information, visit www.scstrat.com or call us at 702-780-1410. After all, every company has a safety culture, but is it the culture you want?
And we're back. And obviously everybody's looking, what's their culture look like? How do you find a good one? And part of this, as we've been talking about already, is having leadership in the field. So if we can jump back to our slides, we're going to kind of revisit where we were. Yeah, we were talking about that $1 billion per week, and everybody had to kind of reset their calculator and say, man, run those for compensation. And so, and these aren't fatalities, by the way. But they aren't like the major ones where you have permanent disability. This is some of the smaller stuff, quote unquote. So if this is important, and candidly, I offer for your consideration, I think it is, Why don't everybody do it already? Well, there's a lot of challenges, right? And historically, what's been going on? Well, there's a lack. Now, a lot of this is perception. I'll advise you on the front end. Perception is the reality of the individual that's experiencing that. And that's one of the learning things I figured out a long time ago, because I'm not this smart on this. So when employees feel a certain way, it's real to them. Even though it may not totally reflect reality, it's their perception. So lack of timely response to comments or ideas. You probably experienced that yourself. You go to your boss and say, hey, if we did it this way versus the way we're doing it right now, it'd be better, it'd be safer, more efficient. They say, oh, let me check into that and get back to you. And you get bupkis. No email, no follow-up conversations. A lot of people, pretty soon you're disenfranchised. Odds are you may not raise your hand again, and that is not your fault. It's not the fault of the individual. It's that system. The processes aren't functioning the way they should. And here we go. Employees, until they get to know the senior team, they may be hesitant to engage in candid conversations. You're going to hear more about that. Oh, here we go. Initial efforts not rendering the desired results. You know how that goes. You got that new initiative, the boss is all behind it, and 30 days, 60 days later, he goes, okay, guys, how we doing? And you go, well, sir, not much change yet. Ooh, right? So now do they want to keep funding it, keep supporting it, and willing of management to let go? You're going to hear more about that. You are not in the driver's seat. Sorry, we've got to warn you in advance. And then getting buy-in from the employees throughout the organization. How's it making a difference? Not enough time. And you've already got way too many meetings already. Let's see where we can go. Okay, this is that philosophical piece. A management strength can also be a weakness for the purpose of this exercise. You don't know what you don't know. You're going to probably lack some insight to make a quick decision. So if you have a machinist operating a giant lathe and you've never seen one before, and he's talking to you in the field, standing by his lathe and says, if we had this part versus that part, everything would be better, you're not really sure to know what they're saying. That's kind of disconcerting. Because you're like the manager, you're the senior team, you're the president. How can it happen? And pretty soon you can't wait to get back to your office. Okay, let's look at it from the employee side. They may have seen you in a newsletter. They may have seen you in a Zoom call or a little video, but you've really never been in their shop before. Go back to the lathe guy, right? So bang, you show up and say howdy to him. And he goes, hi. He's not sure what to say. He's really nervous. He's afraid he may get second guessed. And then he can't wait for you to leave. And so by the time this is done, it's a collective waste of time for you and the employee. You're thinking, man, I gave up half a day's meeting to drive out here and walk across the parking lot, meet with all these people, and I got nothing from it. And there's the machinist, his buddies go, man, we're looking forward to them coming in, maybe. But dude, they kind of stood there and nodded their head a little bit, and then they walked away. So nobody's happy. We said, well, this is a great path forward, isn't it? So here's some concepts to address those challenges. Listen more. Talk less. It has to be people driven. And what we're talking about, you want to focus on the people in that conversation versus just checking the box. You want to have intentional decisions. You make decisions for the right reasons based off the information you get. Make sure they're in communication. And it has to be an ongoing process. It can't be a singular event, and you want to have long-term traction. I talked about checking the box. I helped an organization. They wanted the management in the field twice a month, and they would have to write little emails on what they learned. The managers that did not do 2 a month, there was no accountability. And the ones that did go and then sent an email, there was no response to it. None of that information went into their review system to see if they had any adverse or positive trends. I repeat, nothing was done with the process. And yet they had to be in the field 2 days a month. Raise your hand if you think that's a great way to kind of engage your team. I would probably not. So what's a good way to get there? Well, have a senior management champion. Commonly maybe like a vice president or the president, depending on your organization. Start with your first and second level line management team. Develop a plan or procedure. kind of guide what you're doing so you can be able to repeat it. Have some type of brown bag sessions. Everybody loves free food. When you say free pizza, I am there. I'll bring my own soda if I have to. But have some like working lunches, some just easy conversations. This is what we're going to be doing. And I learned this a long time ago as well. The importance of using a tour guide. One of my amazing bride, Mary Elizabeth, and by the way, I married up. She's been putting up with me for quite a while. We used to live in the Washington, D.C. area, and we'd go to Jamaica for a week right around Thanksgiving. Just loved the weather, and we got to know some of the locals, and they had some tour guides through our hotel. And so when we wanted to go out shopping, they guided us. They understand kind of the norms. They understand the culture. Hey, here's a guy that has exactly what you're looking for, and I know he'd love to meet you. And odds are you have those same tour guides in your organization. Now, they're not from Jamaica. Maybe not. Commonly the best ones, go grab some of your ESH folk. Why? They're in the field all the time. They're out there almost every day. They have built some of those relationships with the very people that you want to be engaged in. And oh, by the way, this also gets that ESH professional some time to spend with you as a senior leader that may not be available to them routinely otherwise. And you want to monitor the results. I know we have metrics, so okay, we're going to do 2 a week, 2 a month, okay, whatever works. But figure out what you want to do with it. Because I offer for your consideration data for data's sake. You're kind of going through the exercise, you're kind of checking the box like we have on the slide, versus what did we learn? And how can we share across the senior team? And set aside maybe 15 minutes when you're going to have these time, maybe it's 30 minutes, depending on how many you have to talk about. What did we learn? And have some type of quarterly summary to be able to share across your organization on, hey, this is what we learned. We want to thank Fred or Sally or Jane or George. They came up with this great way to do business. Majority of people love to see their name out there in the press, some version. Get it in your company newsletter. Maybe you have a picture out there and you're doing what I call a walkabout with the president. I was in an organization, they put the president up on like a D9 Cat, big giant bulldozer, and he thought it was easier to park than his Toyota, which kind of made me nervous, but everybody got such a kick of seeing him out there in his blue jeans, in a hard hat, gloves on, safety glasses, learning how to drive a bulldozer. And that's ways you start getting engaged. You find that common ground. So what happens? Now again, this isn't going to happen overnight. You're going to have more approachability. These employees are going to be more comfortable talking with management. You're no longer a stranger. You're an ally. You're going to hear about that. Trust. I do a lot of organization on trust. That is such a big deal. It's hard to keep. It's easy to get, hard to keep, and it's even easier to lose if they don't trust you. But when they start realizing it, you truly want to understand what they're doing. And then they start realizing, man, my job is really important to this company because he's out here. So it really helps everybody. Here we go for everybody who likes to monetize stuff. Increased efficiencies. Guarantee the people closest to the work know the best way to do it. And so, instead of using this pallet jack, if you use this forklift, you realize we can move twice as much product, reduce the potential for injuries, and have less damage. Not too many people would be unhappy with that. Excuse me. This one I love. You have the opportunity to resolve minor problems. So a little one before it becomes a big one. True story. I love sharing stories whenever I can. I was at a site and they had an exterior door in a building, and when it opened up, there was a little small step-down transformer on, and the door would hit it. So it couldn't swing fully open, and it kind of took you by surprise. So the vice president came out for one of these walkabouts, as I like to call them, and he goes, really? Let me see what I can do. And he got back to them within a week and says, we're going to get it moved. Within 2 weeks of that, it was moved. That step-down transformer was relocated. So now when they exit that door, it opens fully. It went through the organization like wildfire. Hey, this vice president's willing to listen, and he lets me know what he's going to do, and by golly, he sticks with his guns. Guess what happened? Everybody else started raising their hand too. Here's a better way to do something. Hey, here's a tripping hazard. Ding. I talked to safety before. I'm going to go ahead and talk one more time because I think I have somebody who's willing to listen to me. So you start, everybody gets better, a better work environment and less potential hazards. And you're probably going to be able to get better efficiencies. Big picture, employees start being viewed as individuals. To me, more importantly, management starts being viewed as peers. So before we go into conclusions, one of the organizations I was working with, and we would do big safety meetings, and we would bring the craft into the meeting, some of the iron workers or welders, and we would talk about stuff. And they'd have their safety committee, and they would share the results with the senior team. So we're sitting in, we had different the unions in there, so I'm asking one of them, I said, so Jimmy, I said, what's the latest on your barbecue competitions? And he told me, he says, man, I won a barbecue competition 2 weeks ago. I says, great. And one of the other guys started talking. I says, Jesse, how's that daughter of yours doing in karate? And his face lit up. She's 8 years old. Says she's getting ready to be qualified to get her black belt. And so we get all done with the meeting, had a great time. And a couple of senior managers, they cornered me and they says, how did you know so much about them individually? And I told them, I said, I didn't want to be snarky. I said, I simply talked to them and was willing to listen. But when you take those type of approaches, when you learn a little bit more about them, and that's, by the way, more craft want to come to that meeting now because they got a chance to talk about their family. They got a chance to talk about their hobby. So one of the things I found years ago is, I say years ago because I've done a lot of it. I'm not that smart. I've just done a lot of stuff wrong, and I got a fairly decent memory. So when I was with some of these organizations, when I would talk to their craft or whomever, their hobbies, then I talked to them about their work. Does their body language change a lot? I was in Dallas, Texas for a big safety meeting. I was one of the speakers. I'm very lucky to be there. And so you got the big porta cashier where you drive under, and you got the bellman to help you with your luggage, and the young man, he's helping me. And I always manage to get the elevator that's waiting for everybody to come down. I was like on the 30th floor. And he was telling me about his former boss. He knew everybody out there on the porta cashier by name. He would say, how's the kids doing? What are you going to do this weekend when you have time off? He would actually help unload luggage if they got too busy. I said, really? I said, what happened to him? He goes, well, he got promoted. I said, what's your new boss like? His body language totally changed. He deflated. His eyes kind of went down. And he actually started looking around over his shoulder to see if anybody was close by. And then we got in the elevator, and he goes, yeah, he says, he won't talk to us. He's fired 2 people. We don't know why within the first month that he was there. He says, I hate my job. Now, I offer for your consideration. His job was still the same, to help the guests be able to get successfully to their room, greet them, be friendly, and he did that great. He couldn't stand his job anymore, simply because of the way his boss responded to it and treated them. So what's some conclusions out of this? MBWA, Management Walk Around, it takes a dedicated effort, because if it doesn't, you can disenfranchise the very people that you were trying to get engaged with. You can do more harm than good. You'll hear that many times. Get everybody the opportunity to participate throughout the company. I've worked with teams, and one group will say, well, I've just got office workers. There's really no need to talk to them. Okay, I'm hearing crickets, which is good. That means that's probably not the best response. But again, it's how does senior management roll this out? How do they talk to their direct reports? Obviously, you want everybody engaged, because the people in office, they can go through the same frustrations and challenges as a welder out in the middle of the field. And millennials, you want to have them part of your conversation. They're wired a little different, I think it's fantastic, and they can bring a lot of innovation and ideas to you. So some final thoughts for you. Don't expect immediate success. Please, 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 please. Just be prepared. The first couple aren't going to go very well. Don't demand perfection. If somebody forgets to turn in their form, if they get so busy they can't go do whatever that goal was that month, understand things can happen. And for the senior management team, you're going to be uncomfortable a little bit. It's okay. Odds are the employees are a little uncomfortable too, but stay the course. You, your company, your employees are worth the efforts. I got one or two more slides. Got to share another story. So I take the director of safety for a large company, brand new to the organization, about 3 months, and I take him out to meet some of the craft. The craft guys know me. I'm very fortunate. I always have my dirty boots on, my old beat up blue jeans. I would much rather be in the field with the craft than going to senior meetings, where I'm usually at. So I introduced him to an apprentice. I had met the apprentice the week before, tin knocker, sheet metal guy. And he's so excited to be working there. And I noticed his wedding ring. I says, oh, you're married? He goes, yeah, we're married and we got a brand new baby girl. I said, well, congratulations. He's all excited. I said, I want to introduce you to Fred, the new safety director. So this young man turns to him all excited because I got him kind of pumped up. The safety director looks him square in the eye and goes, why do you have all these cables laying around on this floor? Don't you know what a tripping hazard is? No joke. You could see that young man deflate the same way the bellman did in Dallas, Texas. What am I supposed to say? Now I'm in trouble. Am I going to get fired? And everybody else that heard that comment, that they walked out of the building. They don't want to interact with the guy. So the guy wasn't bad, by the way. It's just kind of how it was brought to his attention. And more importantly, they just told him, go to the field, grab Mike and go, with real genuine expectations. For additional insight, there is a lot on this topic. I had the pleasure, I've written a white paper on it. I've got a lot of my bibliography has a lot of different sources of where I gathered my information. And I would be glad to provide you with a copy of this. The title, go figure, Manage by Ball Walking Around versus Stumbling About. I authored it. And get a free copy. Just email your request at mike@scstrat.com. And I tell you, that's going to conclude our executive synopsis for today. I am Mike Kinney, proud, right here with Safety Culture Solutions, sponsored by Safety Culture Strategies. Until next time, be safe out there and set aside time to get to know your team. Have a great day. Bye-bye.